Roadshow News Recap starts right now. Our top story this week comes from Stellantis, the American slash French slash Italian slash whatever automaker had some important software related announcements this week, and it kind of sort of teased a sleek looking all electric crossover for the Chrysler brand. Yes, Chrysler brand is not dead. Lexus introduced an off-road side-by-side that is powered by hydrogen, though not a fuel cell. This vehicle is a real puzzle, and Sean and I will have a lot to say about it. Now, according to Audi, our next story here, the next generation R8 supercar will be all electric, and this is a huge change for the beloved nameplate, though it could result in even greater performance. Finally, range figures for the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6 were just announced. These mass-market EVs might just surprise you how far they can go between charges. We'll cover all of these stories and much more on this week's episode of Roadshow News Recap. So, welcome to the show, everyone. Happy Friday. It's great to be back. And, of course, it's wonderful to see you again, Sean.
Of course. It's wonderful to see you, Craig, and everybody. This is Craig's last show of the year. He decided to take some well-deserved time off. So this is the last time you're going to see Craig's lovely face here with me before we enter 2022.
Yes, so glad to have a few days off here. Turns out if you don't use your vacation days, you lose your vacation days. So I figured, I'll be taking those because I need a break.
Use it or lose it.
That's exactly right. But welcome to the show. Like and subscribe if you're feeling generous. Every little bit helps. And of course, we appreciate when you tune in to Roadshow News Recap. But Sean, our big story this week, a little bit confusing, but what's going on with Stellantis?
Yeah, so this was another big event they held this year. Stellantis is calling you, Craig. This is the second week in a row somebody's trying to reach you about your extended car warranty.
Unending nonsense. It's just constant crap marketing. But anyway,
yes, this is another one of those big events Stellantis held. We saw like the EV Day this past summer. This was Software Day, where it was very focused on like the digital tech coming, mobility solutions, and kind of like the digital platforms that are going to power, Dodge, Chrysler, Alfa Romeo, Jeep, Ram, all of those brands.
The 47 other brands they have.
Yeah, exactly. What's going to power the technology for those cars into the future? And I'll be frank, most of that stuff was really boring. So what we decided to talk about more so was kind of the way Stellantis snuck in a teaser for the Chrysler Airflow electric vehicle concept.
Yes.
We first saw this concept in early 2020, and it was rather futuristic looking. It perhaps just looked like some sort of sculptural design study, as you see there on the screen. And then during EV Day, which they held this past summer, they had a more production-looking version of this, and they didn't even mention it. It was just kind of in the presentation. Now, during Software Day, they actually the executives and the people in charge of the automaker were like, oh yeah, we're going to acknowledge this thing. And the quote was, "This is closer to production than you may think," speaking to the audience. So really it looks like this vehicle previews or perhaps is very, very close to a production electric Chrysler. And I guess all we can say is like, wow, Chrysler's finally going to build a new car. Wow.
Right. Well, remember they since Stellantis became a thing, they're kind of giving each of the brands like 10 years to get their stuff together, so to speak. So Chrysler currently has all of 2 models. They've got the Pacifica minivan, and you can count the Voyager, which I guess is fleet only now, right? As a kind of a third model, but really it's just a lower price Pacifica. And then they've got the 300, which is really old. So they don't have any crossovers. They don't have any SUVs. They don't have much of anything. So it's a wonder they're still in business anymore. But it's good to see that the parent company is going to give them a new vehicle and an electric crossover.
Yeah. I mean, this... I'm excited, I think, just because I want to see signs of life from Chrysler. I think everyone's kind of wondering where the brand is going to go, because it, even before, Fiat Chrysler and PSA Group merged, when it was just Fiat Chrysler, it was like, what's going on with Chrysler? Like the Chrysler brand, because like you said, like you got a really great minivan and a super old sedan that you sell, and that's it. That's hardly a fully fleshed out product portfolio. It seems like a not great way to make money.
Yeah.
Just selling those two vehicles, because neither of them sell in crazy high quantities, and I can't imagine the profit margin is exorbitant enough to cover keeping Chrysler in business for just those two vehicles.
Yeah.
So that's why when we saw this and they actually acknowledged it, we're like, okay, this is a big deal, because this kind of seems like they could be setting up the Airflow EV, if it keeps that name or if it changes the name, whatever, but it's called the Airflow EV concept. It looks like they may be setting this car up as the start of perhaps Chrysler's rebrand, which it desperately needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I keep asking, like, why haven't they given the Chrysler brand like a version of the Grand Cherokee? Don't give it all the off-road hardware necessarily, but take that and make a Chrysler out of it, or a super high-end luxury truck. Just take a Ram at 1500 and make it into a Chrysler. Like, this isn't hard. You have other good products throughout the portfolio that you could repurpose.
Oh my
Make
gosh.
a version of the Giulia, for crying out loud.
You could literally take a carbon copy of almost every Jeep, probably save the Grand Wagoneer, and create some sort of Chrysler version of it, and have a way to double your crossover and SUV sales, because just make it, I could foresee that as kind of like a Buick Infiniti-ish kind of thing, like not crazy pricey, luxurious, but this middle ground place. Then I don't know, does that start stepping on Alfa Romeo? Does that start stepping on Maserati even? I don't know, but I feel like there is space for that, just because Alfa Romeo is like this distinctly Italian thing, and so is Maserati, so I feel like there's a gap there that Chrysler could really fill, selling basically gussied up like Cherokees and Compass, SUVs or something.
It's crazy that they haven't done something like that over the last 10 years.
Well, we had the Aspen once upon a time.
Well, that was forever and a day ago, but people really liked that when it was out. It was a fancy version of the Durango. But But to back up, the Airflow name is so cool for a future vehicle like this, because the original Airflow came out in the 1930s, and it was one of the very first cars that was really engineered in a wind tunnel so that it was sleek and more efficient. But it was a sales flop because it looked too weird for the public at the time. But the ideas that it was built around were obviously very important and trend-setting, and because aerodynamics is important. So to bring that back, I think, is very cool. As for the vehicle itself that they showed off, some of the angles of it, I think, look attractive, but other parts, like the front end, doesn't look finished to me. It's like it's not done yet or something. And this is the what is this here? This is the concept from CES last year.
Yeah, this was like the earliest iteration of the Airflow, and then some of the other footage you'll see here is like the, whatever you want to call it, like second concept perhaps of
the one
what
that
it
rolled
is.
up and drove. Yeah, this one. See the front end. Look at the front. It seems too plain.
No, I feel like that's finished. I just feel like they're keeping the fascia that we've known for so long. That looks very, very similar to like the 200 sedan before it died. It looks a lot like the Pacifica. I was just going to say, so I just kind of feel like they're sticking with that brand identity, because it's not a bad look. It really isn't.
But the bumper cover just looks like there's not enough there. I don't know. I obviously have to see it, but
I think I can see what you're getting at there. Something maybe to me where that's coming through is like the paint finish. Perhaps it's just that B-roll and that footage where it looks kind of flat. It doesn't look glossy, so it looks like a body in white kind of ordeal, But I think the design is very attractive overall. And we challenged our video producer to kind of pluck through photos and video, because Chrysler hasn't really been like, yes, this is the Airflow concept in its latest form. they're being like indirect about it, and I don't know if that's like a sneaky teaser game they're playing, because obviously people are going to be like, hey, what's that? And ask questions and talk about it, just because if for any reason Chrysler's been basically silent for years.
Yeah. Let's touch very briefly on some of the quote unquote boring stuff from Software Day. I just wanted to mention, because it sounds like Chrysler or Stellantis wants to be a mobility or a tech company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to that, I say get in line. Like every
Mm-hmm.
automaker has some crazy dream of being a tech company, and I don't understand it. Maybe I'm too old fashioned, maybe I'm too out of date, but like everything does not have to be a computer screen. I don't want more screens in my life. A phone, a computer, a TV.
Unfortunately,
that's enough for me.
Craig, I feel like you may be in the minority of modern car buyers, or a lot of modern car buyers. I'm not saying that every car buyer wants a gajillion screens, but certainly that seems to be the thing, is that tech helps sell cars these days.
Yeah. They're also developing 3 new AI-powered technology platforms that'll be deployed in their STLA architectures or platforms, whatever that means. It's more like buzzword salad of sorts.
Yeah, basically.
They announced a partnership with Foxconn, or at least signed a memo of understanding to develop microcontrollers that they will use in their vehicles and then sell to other parties as well. And then the scary part is, they talked about monetizing their connected cars, and they're aiming to generate, right? So this is like software as a service sort of stuff, over the air updates, I believe. And they're looking to generate 20 billion euro in revenue annually by 2030.
Yeah,
So
Craig,
that's terrifying.
if you don't mind me jumping in on you, just so if people don't understand what that means, that is this whole concept of you buying a vehicle Stellantis builds and subscribing to all sorts of things in the car. Maybe that's a better infotainment system, or heated seats, or keyless entry, or specific mood lighting or something. So it's like you buy a car, and then just like, I think a good example or something similar is like a video game, where you purchase a video game and there's downloadable content. So like Stellantis wants to put services in front of you to purchase once you've bought the car.
I hate this idea so much. Now, part of it could include like usage-based insurance.
Yes.
But so much of this, I don't like the idea.
Yeah, because it opens a really big can of worms, where it's like, we kind of took an angle when I think BMW was one of the first companies to talk about doing this kind of thing. And kind of our angle when we wrote about it was at the roadshow.com was, your next BMW may only have heated seats for 6 months. Like they could sell you a new car that has everything required to work the heated seats, but software will lock it out, say after 6 months of ownership. And then BMW will be like, knock, knock. You need to pay $3 a month to use the heated seats, whatever the scheme is that they come up with. And that's just a terrible timeline, I think, for the automotive industry to start diving down this rabbit hole. If there's anything where, I said tech sells earlier, I think that's a really great way to turn people off from buying new cars, is if you're like, you got to spend the average new car price around $40,000 for this SUV, but you only get 85% of the features. The other portion you'll have to unlock via subscriptions.
It's insanity. What works in like a casual game you would play on your phone, buying extra coins or whatever, I don't know. It should not apply to the auto industry. I'm sorry. If you want the heated seats, check that options box or get that package. Like, don't charge me every month for it. This is just ridiculous.
Now, I will say the counter argument we've heard from some brands is, well, this opens up new opportunity for people who buy pre-owned cars. Like, say these kinds of things are included, and the car was built with those heated seats, but the previous owner didn't want them. And so they never subscribed to them, and they saved money during their ownership. Now, owner 2 can purchase that car and subscribe to them, and they have heated seats. So I understand that argument. I'm not saying it's a good argument, but I'm saying that's the counterpoint that we've gotten from brands and automakers in the past when they start kind of pointing in this direction, saying like, hey, like there's a lot of money to be made if we do this. But yeah, overall, I think it's a terrible idea and I don't want to see it.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's just, now we don't know everything that would entail, but certainly some of the things that we've discussed here. So, and I don't like it either. But moving on, we've got to talk about Lexus, something else that doesn't make any sense at all. So the Toyota's luxury brand introduced its ROV concept, which is short for recreational off-highway vehicle. And basically this thing, as you can see, is a sports side-by-side that you would take out on the trail. And why, Sean? Why is Lexus doing this? This makes absolutely no sense. This is a luxury brand. Why are they building a Polaris, or a John Deere Gator? Like what? Why? Why?
Yeah, like we seriously wanted to put this in the show because Craig and I online this week were like, what is this? Why does this exist? You are a Japanese luxury brand that made your name selling cars with like utmost refinement at a lower price, undercutting the Germans, but in just, comfort, quiet, class, quality and value in a good way. And then decades later, you're building a hydrogen powered ATV. Like this is almost, it's not almost, but it's in the same vein. It's very similar to, for me, that Cadillac has a motorsports program because, and they sell like the V, the V vehicles. I'm all for super fast, high performance cars. And I love the fact that the Black Wings exist. But in the same way, I look at Lexus, and I own a Lexus, a 2001 Lexus. In the same way, I look at those cars and think they're comfortable and classy and all sorts of things like that, and quality. Why does this exist?
I have no idea. None of it makes any sense. It's like GMC offering like canned soup or something. It just makes no, why would, why? Like, it's so out of the realm of what they do.
Yeah, it's really, really just, I keep saying it's really odd. This was just such a weird thing to see pop up on our radar. And we were like, we have to talk about this. Especially it is interesting though, Craig, that it runs on hydrogen, but does not have a fuel cell.
Yeah, because it actually has an engine that burns the hydrogen, which extra makes no sense.
Yeah, we've seen kind of Toyota and now Lexus get on this train a little bit where, they keep showing us concepts with internal combustion engines that run on hydrogen and not gasoline or diesel.
Yeah.
So this is clearly the next step. The thing is hydrogen burning internal combustion engines still aren't totally clean, like a fuel cell.
That hydrogen.
Yeah. So I'm not saying the idea of a engine burning hydrogen is bad. If there was a way that you could keep internal combustion engines and then put a sustainable fuel that reduced emissions significantly, that sounds like an amazing idea. And, some companies like Porsche are working on like a synthetic fuel to perhaps make that a reality. But if the hydrogen still creates emissions, it's not going to help companies meet emissions goals and regulations and things like that. So
Lexus ROV Concept, it's got a 1-liter engine. Not sure on the cylinder count or any performance metrics because they didn't share any. But supposedly, since hydrogen burns faster than gasoline, it's going to feel super responsive. Whatever that means. I don't know.
Will they even build one that we could actually drive? Probably not.
Will it have a Mark Levinson sound system? I don't know. But yeah, I
don't know about Mr. Mark Levinson, but I gotta say that, Craig, I have the privilege of driving some very lovely cars and doing what I do. And I'm a bit of an audiophile. And there is not one new vehicle that I've driven, and I'm sure they exist, but that I've driven, that has a sound system that sounds better than the Lexus premium audio in my 2001 Lexus.
Oh, you said audiophile. I was going to say you shouldn't be saying that out loud, but it's audiophile. Okay.
Yeah.
Rather than another kind of. Yes, but that's quite the look.
All right, roll the next segment.
Sorry to derail everything. I couldn't resist. It's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. So Craig has checked out. He's going to be gone for the rest of the year, so he's having a really good time on this show, apparently.
I haven't had lunch yet either, so leave me alone.
Oh, he's hungry.
Yeah, hangry.
Oh, boy. So, yes, that was all Lexus had to share about this interesting creation. So, that's it for that.
Yeah. So, but what is next on our list here? The next generation Audi R8. It sounds like this thing's going to be all electric, which was confirmed by a spokeswoman at the company.
Yes, this week, while one of our staff members was abroad attending an Audi event, one of the company's executives kind of dropped the fact that their next challenge for the coming decade is turning the R segment into something totally electric. And what this means, it's not a confirmation that we're going to see a next generation R8. You know, like we don't know if it'll be something, you know, like a mid-engine kind of style or, you know, that kind of, you know, body, whatever design, so to speak. But whatever replaces it, if it's another R8, if it's called an R8, if it's something different but serves that same kind of purpose, it's going to be fully electric next time around.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll call it the e-tron R8 GT / Club Sport
Audi
Sport,
RS Audi Sport Quattro.
Yeah, with Quattro. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we just named it, so the people at Audi, you know, put the check in the mail, please.
Yep. Thank you much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, I mean, today's R8, you get a naturally aspirated V10 with like around 600 horsepower and a whole bunch of torque. We know nothing about what an electric R8 could or may not be.
Yeah.
But I would suspect it might have even more performance because electrics can give you that.
Yeah, it's not the first time Audi has kind of hinted they're interested in that. I mean, we saw an electric Audi R8 concept in the past, so clearly it's been on their minds for a while. I just kind of wonder if it's a matter of they want battery technology to get to a certain point, you know, before they're just like, hey, we can make an electric, I don't want to say supercar. I would not call the R8 a supercar, but a sports car, like in this sort of lane. So I'm curious if it's just a matter of waiting for the right technologies and to come about so that they can lay claim to these sort of performance targets. Especially, here's the thing I don't know if people realize or think about is when it comes to an electric supercar or performance car, those cars are driven a lot differently than, you know, a commuter car. So if you have an owner who takes their electric sports car to the track, you need to make sure the battery can hold a charge long enough so that you can race it or track it for as long as you'd like. And also batteries are insanely heavy still. They're not lightweight equipment. So when you're talking about adding batteries to the type of vehicle you want to be a lightweight thing, you know, for performance, you know, matters, then you start to have to find this weird equilibrium where, you know, a lot of companies might be like, we're going to wait.
Yeah. Totally. But yeah, electric R8 could be a very exciting, exotic car. Or maybe not, because maybe they'll just kill it. Who knows?
Yeah, it could be the end of the R8. Like I said, just because they confirmed something will be electric doesn't mean it will be another R8. It could be just whatever they decide will take up the mantle of a, you know, performance flagship for Audi Sport. So big game of wait and see.
Yep, that's so much of the auto industry. But what you don't have to wait to see are a couple super cool videos on the Roadshow News YouTube channel. We've got one that, Sean, that you hosted. It's all about an undrivable Porsche. What does that mean? Well, I'm not going to tell you. You got to check it out. And there's another one that Ford may actually spin the Maverick off into its own brand. Now, does that mean it'll become something like Mustang or F-Series? I'm not so sure, but it's pretty interesting. And based on the popularity of this compact truck already, it might make a lot of business sense. So check that out. 2 great videos on the Roadshow News channel. You should totally give them a look-see. But moving along into the second half of the show here, we've got some South Korean EV news. Hyundai and Kia, they're kind of like, I guess you could say, frenemies. They're obviously closely related, but they don't like to talk about each other ever. But they just announced the electric range of 2 of their new EVs. There's the Hyundai Ioniq 5 with a Q on the end. I always spell it with a C and then have to go back and change it because I realize, oh shoot, it's Q. And then the Kia EV6. So pretty. What do you think? Are these numbers impressive, Sean?
I don't think the numbers in particular are crazy impressive. I think there's here's how I will frame this. I think there's 2 ways of looking at it. They are impressive because they go over 300 miles. The Ioniq 5 just barely at 303 with the, biggest battery you can get for the car, and the EV6 at 310 miles for that same biggest battery you can get for the EV6. It's impressive they can do that. I think it's impressive that they're kind of starting to catch up with Tesla a little bit, and other automakers are, because we're starting to see more 300-mile EVs in general. But also, like, at the same time, for anyone to try and take ground away from Tesla, I feel like there's going to have to be some really big technological shift where, someone like Hyundai, Kia comes out and they're just like, hey, like, for the price of a Model 3, we can get you 400 miles.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're talking about, like a sea change, because if you're just kind of getting close to Tesla, I'm not sure if you're going to get enough people who would be very interested in a Tesla Model 3 or a Model Y to take a look at an Ioniq 5. And by the way, I think the Ioniq 5 is like one of the only EVs on sale that will appeal very much so to people who end up cross-shopping EVs. If they're not sold, like, I'm getting a Tesla no matter what. The people who actually want to shop around and, like, look at a Mustang Mach-E or the Ioniq 5 and, a handful of other electric vehicles on sale, something about the Ioniq 5's design, I think, is going to appeal to that same kind of person.
Yes. Yeah, and the Ioniq 5's design is unlike anything else out there. It has sort of this retro 80s feel to it, which is super distinctive these days, and totally different than the Kia EV6, which is kind of blobby.
I
good term.
I don't like it. It just made me laugh because I was about to say a different word, but I'm like, no, blobby is good.
It's just kind of there, like a bar of soap, like an EQS. Mercedes.
Not even. I mean, at least the EQS still looks elegant. The EV, I think it does in a way. The EV6, the whole idea is that's Kia's new design language called Opposites United, and it's like, well, it's definitely the front and the rear are very opposite, but I am not seeing the cohesion factor for that design overall. But
it sounds like the EV6 and the Ioniq 5 share basically the same architecture, the same hardware. So what can we attribute the range difference to? It's got to be,
I'm going to say aerodynamics.
Right? What else is there? All other things being equal.
Just kind of eyeballing both of them. The Ioniq 5 is a little more squared off and perhaps acts more like a brick in a wind tunnel, where the EV6 is sleeker and probably just cuts through the air a little bit better, because the differences are not that large.
No.
We're talking 7 miles with the biggest battery. The EV6 will do an extra 7 miles. Like, that kind of discrepancy can exist when it dips below 40 degrees in an EV, so it's not like Kia's running away with the range war, the internal range war at Hyundai Motor. But it was interesting to see, because we also have one of the other configurations. The EV6 will do 274 miles with all-wheel drive. The Ioniq 5 will do 256. So that's that's a little bit more of a difference where you're starting to see something actually is different to create
Yeah.
a larger delta in that
Yep.
matter.
Yep. And then the standard range, the smallest battery pack with rear drive, the Kia gets you 236 miles, the Hyundai just 220. So again, a bit of bigger delta than at the high end, but still not a bad place to be. I think we already answered this question. Which one do you prefer, Sean?
Yeah, it's the Ioniq 5.
Right answer, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. This is just kind of a little bit of an offshoot, Craig, but what do you think about all of these automakers kind of bringing back rear wheel drive as a standard layout? It's, because you can really do whatever you want with a lot of these very advanced platforms that these automakers are creating. And it just seems like, why would you go all in on a rear wheel drive standard layout when you could do a front wheel drive standard layout and still create an all wheel drive system? It's very simple to do with an EV.
Yeah. Because
So
that's why they switched to front drive, because it
Mhm.
keeps everything very compact. It's under the hood, and you don't have to deal with a prop shaft or drive shaft, everything going to the rear, different, a rear end to build and accommodate extra weight. So that's why they switched to front drive. But now, yeah, it's very interesting that base configurations in EVs are very often rear drive. And obviously you can get better dynamics with rear wheel drive. You can sort of, oversteer when you get on the throttle if you want, and there's never going to be torque steer tugging at the steering wheel if you nail the accelerator. But that's not how most people drive. And we have generations of people that have grown up with front drive vehicles largely. Now, obviously trucks and big SUVs are still rear drive based. So, and a lot of people do drive those, of course, but we have generations of people, car buyers, that are pretty much only familiar with front drive. So if they're not getting their winter tires installed on their new EV, they ain't going to be going very far when it's snowy and icy out.
No, and I know, not a lot of people at the end of the day have driven an electric vehicle. Driving an EV or even a plug-in hybrid when you're just rolling around in battery mode, it's a whole different animal in the snow just because of instantaneous torque. It's very easy to just spin the tires and go nowhere in one of those cars. And I'm talking a front wheel drive EV. So I can't imagine how much difficulty people would have with a set of all season tires on a rear wheel drive EV6 trying to get around in 3 inches of snow on the streets.
Yeah. Or as I like to call them, no season tires.
Yes.
They're optimized for nothing.
Trademark.
Yeah, right.
It's a critical trademark.
But a very good point, Sean. Speaking of electric vehicles, though, our last story of the show here, Lightning, the F-150, apparently it's not going to be the only all-electric truck that Ford is working on. Now, this is another real head-scratcher to me, because so basically a few months back, they confirmed that they're building Blue Oval City, which is going to be a big manufacturing facility near Memphis, Tennessee. But in a recent interview that Ford CEO Jim Farley had with Automotive News, he confirmed that they're going to be building another full-size, all-electric pickup on a brand new platform. So the F-150 is a full-size truck, and it has its own architecture, body-on-frame construction, of course. What could another all-electric full-size truck be, and why is it going to have its own dedicated platform? What is this?
Yeah, it was an interesting tidbit that came out from an interview that Mr. Farley did, and my mind goes to two places. Either the F-150 Lightning, as we see it here, has a very short lifespan, and like they're already just going to be like, here's the new one, because this, as we've said many times, is very much still a regular F-150, and that we imagine that's how Ford is keeping costs down, because it shares so much with a standard F-150 that Ford has economies of scale out the wazoo for. So it could be that it's just another F-150 Lightning, a new generation, far more advanced than what we even see here. Or the key word I got from Ford when I did speak to them about this was it will be an F-Series pickup F
So,
series.
Super Duty.
So yes, are we talking about some sort of heavy duty electric pickup truck?
Mm-hmm.
Or does Ford go smaller? An F-100 electric pickup truck? I
That's
mean,
kind of, they always boast about selling the most trucks, right? F
yeah.
Series #1 selling, even though GM will sell more trucks overall
Hmm.
than Ford because they have the Silverado and the Sierra, blah, blah, blah. It was kind of interesting they didn't make the Maverick like an F-100 just so they could lump it in with the F Series, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally. There was an opportunity there, or maybe whatever marketing research showed people didn't like that idea of an F-100 being a front wheel drive base pickup. I
Yeah,
don't know.
who knows? Who knows? But that's a very good point. Like the only thing I can think of is this is going to be a Super Duty truck.
Hmm.
But I don't often hear Super Duty level trucks referred to as full size. They're
Right.
typically called heavy duty trucks.
Yeah.
So it raises a lot of questions. But you also had a very good point, Sean, in noting that maybe the Lightning will be in its current form only around for a short amount of time. Maybe
Yeah.
what Ford is going to do, and I'm just throwing this out there, maybe they have an all new Lightning in the works set to come out in the next few years. And maybe the current version will stick around as like the commercial grade, like the pro model. So
Hmm.
the low cost entry level version that they can sell to contractors or bargain hunters. And then they'll have the new one that comes out in a couple years that'll appeal to higher end buyers, folks
Hmm.
that want the latest technology that'll be even more advanced. So
Yeah.
maybe that's what they're doing, but I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Who knows? That is the best answer I could get out of the kind people at Ford. And I mean, it was kind enough that they even spoke about future product a little bit.
Wow, that literally never happens.
Yeah. Yeah, wild stuff, but yeah, Ford what's their goal is to be in the next 2 years, they want to 2 or 3 years, they're aiming to be the number 2 electric vehicle maker in the United States. It's a weird race to be second place, but
Yeah.
that's their goal. Obviously Tesla is still number 1 right now.
It
But
will be for the time being, I'm sure.
and will be for the time being unless we see a real groundswell of people who are like, yeah, I want an electric F-150 and they start buying Lightnings like no tomorrow. I don't think that's going to happen, but they did just close reservation books for this truck, and they're not
Yes.
giving a final specific number, but they said it's around 200,000. That's
Crazy.
that's pretty significant. Yeah.
It's gonna take them years to fulfill those orders too,
Mm-hmm.
which is a happy problem to have. It's a problem they've had with some of their other products. The
Yeah.
Bronco, the Maverick is basically sold out, at least the hybrid version, until
Mm-hmm.
supposedly next year. So yeah, the hits keep coming, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like, is this the same company that built like the Explorer that's been recalled 47 times?
Yeah.
Like
Hard.
what? What?
Yeah. It's there's a lot of exciting vehicles coming out of Ford, and it's a real bummer when we see like the new Explorer it's a pretty good SUV. You know, the Bronco we're very excited for, and it sucks when we see like, oh, look, there's a recall for it,
Yeah.
or there's quality issues on the Bronco tops, and now you can't get a hard top for another 8 months or whatever that's going on with all of that. So unfortunate to see, but you know, they are the longtime automaker. They know how to build cars, and at least they will take the steps to rectify the issues as they see fit.
They get pretty close.
They try.
Like,
They
how many
try.
recalls has the Explorer had? Is it like 12?
Yeah,
Something that's
we
just
wrote a story,
ridiculous.
and yeah, at the time it was like the 10th time that the Explorer had been recalled. I mean, there's a
Wow.
whole story behind what was going on with the Explorer. Very like a learning experience to say the least, I think, for Ford.
Yeah, they really botched that launch, like,
Yeah.
just epically.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, I think I'm done here, Sean, because my vacation starts in a couple hours, and I'll be done until the new year. So I don't want to drag this out any longer.
Lucky.
As much as I would love to sit and chat with y'all,
Well,
I want to start
we
my vacation.
I don't blame you. Yeah, so thank you so much, Craig, for being along for the ride with Roadshow News this year. You know, we just started this past March, I think, you know, so for
Yeah.
everyone who watches this and watches until the end, thank you so much for being here with Craig and I. We appreciate it. We read through your comments, on the site, and sometimes reply if we're not too busy.
That's
so yeah,
rarity.
So yeah, next week it will be Antoine and I that will close the year out with the Roadshow News Recap. So Craig,
be in good hands.
Yes, we'll be in totally good hands. So yes, Craig, you enjoy your time off.
You don't want to do an episode on Christmas Eve, though.
No.
You sure? I mean, you could. You're welcome to do it.
I don't think anyone else would even be here to run the internets and video things. So you'd probably just end up staring at the wall. I don't know.
I'm sure we could figure something out. But anyway, thank you, Sean. It's always a pleasure doing the show with you not every Friday, most Fridays. Sometimes I'm gone. I apologize. But yeah, wishing you a happy new year. Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever.
Festivus, whatever you celebrate.
And to the crew and folks that make the back end stuff happen, because we obviously couldn't do the show if they weren't working the internet and making sure all the tubes are connected. So much obliged. Thankful for all that. But most thankful, of course, for all of you watching Roadshow News Recap, where we dissect and discuss the most important automotive stories of the past week. Anyway, thank you again for watching. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you once more in the new year.